I got to turn on the mic. Hey, family, how y'all doing? I'm Bishop John Selders.
And I'm Pamela Selders.
And we are here tonight, excited to join you and have you join us as we commemorate and observe this Holy Week. And we're calling it for us Holy Week of Holy Action. All righty. Again, you know who I am. I'm John Selders.
And I'm Pamela Selders.
And thank you all for being willing to join us, being willing to invest in this week. For us, it is a joy, actually, and a privilege and an honor to serve in the capacities that we do. We long time ago made a commitment to journey in this way, where faith and justice are married together. In my mind and in my heart, you don't really have any faith if you don't have a little justice on it. And for me, justice can't really happen unless there's a little faith with it. So they work together. And I'm going to bring in our partner, our brother and friend, the Reverend Josh Pawelek, who is the senior minister for the Unitarian Universalist Society East. Welcome, brother.
Hey, how's it going?
All is well. All is well. I want to talk a little bit about how this whole journey of More Monday began, and then kind of lead us into where we are at this point, if you will. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's a good story.
So let me begin, and then I'll have you jump in here. We had spent time in. Let me ask you to mute your mic. There you go, because that little echo thing.
We already made that mistake.
Pamela and I had, if many of you all know our story, so I won't rehearse that story, but we both are from St. Louis. And so when Ferguson hit, we went home. And so, and during the height of the resistance during back in 2014, Pamela and I both were back and forth to St. Louis. We would happen to be there the day after the non-indictment announcement had happened in St. Louis in the Mike Brown case. And if you all will remember, 1 week later, the non-indictment announcement came in the Eric Garner's case. And we happened to be in St. Louis during that whole period of time. And so suffice it to say, St. Louis was turned up a little bit. The Lou was turned up a little bit. And the whole country, the whole country, people had descended. And so we were back and forth. That particular weekend, or that particular week, 8-9 days we were there, we then returned back here to Connecticut, and Reverend Pawelek and others had gathered and they had invited us to a meeting to say, hey, we want to hear words from the front. Reverend Pawelek, I'm gonna have you take up the story.
Well, so yeah, we wanted to hear what you were learning in Ferguson and what your experience had been, but the reality was it was a group of pastors who were meeting. We were meeting at the Center Church, Congregational Church in downtown Hartford, and we had gathered because we thought we were gonna have a meeting with the Hartford Police Department, and we were gonna talk about their policies, which were hard to figure out on the website, and we were going to talk about militarization and what kind of equipment did they have, and we were going to talk about other issues related to policing. And you very gently reminded us that would probably have been about the 40th time we'd done that in the last 10 years, and where had it gotten us? And we weren't going to do things that way anymore. What you had learned in Ferguson is that it's time to confront the reality of police violence at a different level, and that constant return to community conversation wasn't getting us anywhere. And that was really, in my mind, the birth of Moral Monday, Connecticut.
That's absolutely correct. That's how we describe it. It was in that conversation that we began to talk about how we do that, and we formed a small group of us and led an action within a month of that. In fact, we tried to lead an action on a Monday, and every time we would schedule the action, it snowed.
It snowed.
Who would have thought in February it snows in Connecticut, right?
I mean, it really snowed too. Several feet.
That happened like 3 weeks in a row.
It did. We had like big snow. Like it wasn't a couple of inches. It was like a couple of feet. It was big snow. And so we finally got it in, the first action. And that led us into ultimately, that was in February. Then ultimately in June 8th, I believe it was, we led a major action. It was, in fact, we make this claim, and unashamedly, we led the first Black Lives Matter action event here in the state of Connecticut, and that kind of propelled us into the mainstream and the movement in earnest here in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And we connected during that period of time. We were in Baltimore when Baltimore jumped off. We were in Cleveland when that jumped off. We've been back and forth to several of the hot spots across the country, and have been in conversation with many of those leaders in the context of it. And what we like to say is Moral Monday sits in the nexus of Black Lives Matter and the movement for Black lives and police accountability, but also we've always been concerned about kind of the broad-based social justice movement that has been our work and our witness. Certainly in my lifetime, and history says there have been Black preachers involved in this work since Black people have been in this land and on this sojourn. So we feel very much that we are part of a tradition that says, resistance, that says struggle, that says truth telling, that says the holding up the moral banner, if you will, is the right thing to do, is the just thing to do. And here we are some 7 years later.
Yeah.
Here we are 7 years later, engaged in all of the stuff we've been involved in, which leads us to this week. This week for Christians in particular is a very important week. It began yesterday. If this is Holy Monday, then Sunday before Holy Monday is Palm Sunday. And it is this season for Christians, for those of us who are followers of Christianity, or the tradition of Christianity, that says this week, has some particular import into the start and the life and the witness of a Christian, because it is where Jesus, some stuff happens this coming up weekend that's important to Christianity. Can we say it like that?
Yes.
And in particular, this particular week. Now I'm gonna say something that I hope my Christians don't get mad at me. Y'all don't get mad at me, okay? Please don't get mad at me. Jesus was a Jew.
Yep.
I'm just saying that right there. I'm gonna put that there, and we can talk about it later. We can even have a conversation if you should like. But it was in his practicing of his faith. He sat down for the Seder meal, which we now call, it was the Passover meal, right? Mm-hmm. That we call, that Christians acknowledge was the first communion, right? Mm-hmm. If you will. And so, and about every 10 years, Passover and Easter are at the same time. And so in particular, this year, it's happening right now. For Jews, they are celebrating Passover. And so we thought we would come together. In fact, it was Reverend Josh who in conversation said, man, is it about time to do a Holy Week? We did one of these several years ago. And so here we are to talk about a couple of things. Let me name one more thing. that Easter Sunday is April 4th. April 4th, as many of you know, is the anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. All right, in 1960, April 4th, 1968, he was gunned down by an assassin's bullet in Memphis, Tennessee. It is also 1 year prior. He spoke and preached, or lectured. Some of y'all like that term, but black preachers, he preached. His probably one of his most famous. I know y'all like that "I Have a Dream" speech. I know that's a good one. That's a good one. But he got a couple of others. And for me, his Beyond Vietnam speech, where he lays out his thinking and the witness of the work that led him for that last year, is also important. And so it was a year anniversary to his death that he spoke at Riverside Church in New York City, the Beyond Vietnam speech. And so I think all of that came together to say it's time for us to do something that's really interesting and thought-provoking. And in this COVID moment, we can do it using technology. How did I do, Josh?
Very well. Very well. I think you laid it out very nicely.
Reminded. Okay, I'm okay.
Yes.
I was reminded yesterday in church that this time for Jesus, it was a sacred, holy act. Him riding in on the donkey, and them throwing palms or cloves or whatever they threw in front of him. But it was also very much a political act, as kings rode in and was, greeted in similar fashion. And so he was making a statement with all of what he did. So I think it's appropriate for us to consider this week not just one that we contemplate. It is holy and we do contemplate, but also one that we are engaged and involved with community, with politics. And I don't like politics. I'm one to tell you, but I do engage because I have to. It's a part. It is a holy act too. So it is something that I have challenged myself. I'm constantly telling people this is a time that we must challenge our comfort zones. We have to challenge ourselves. And so I have challenged myself in this way and have stepped forward and am being more and more politically engaged in very uncomfortable ways, but I'm still doing it. And, so I think that this is a time for us all to step into this challenge and do it so as it is a sacred act. It is, and it's holy, because it is for us all.
Amen. I want to bring in we got a couple of other guests that are here with us, and I see they have both. One has just arrived. He's here now with us. Let me bring them both in and introduce you to Brother Rick Malenta, who is with. He'll introduce himself and tell you a little bit about what he does. But he is our partner in labor. He works for SEIU. Lord have mercy. As much as I done said that and I can't get it out right. And so Rick, you tell us a little bit about what you're engaged in, what you're involved in, and let me bring in the Reverend Dr., our brother, the Reverend Dr. Anthony Bennett as well, and have him greet you in a minute. But Brother Rick, why don't you talk a little bit about what you do, what you're doing, what you're up to, and the connection that labor has with faith.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and this is an important week in a lot of ways, as you mentioned in the Jewish tradition. This is the week that they commemorate their escape from slavery, and they in their Seder tradition they bring up that fact over and over again about how they were delivered and they were granted justice, and they're still fighting for justice these years later. I mean, this Holy Week this past year has been sort of biblical in terms of plague, at least, and a lot of hardship on us. But what we've been working on at the Service Employees International Union, just to give you a little background, my name is Rick Malenta. I'm the director of the SEIU State Council. We have about 65,000 members in the state of Connecticut, working everywhere from janitors to college professors, bound together in service. That is their common denominator. They all work in service to others, whether it's in nursing homes or janitorial services or plowing your streets, or taking care of people with intellectual disabilities. So for the longest time, we at SEIU have been trying to figure out how to engage others and work together with folks in the community, in the faith community, as well as different organizations, community organizations, and even other labor organizations. I don't know if it's like what the clergy is like, but sometimes labor organizations don't get along too well with each other, and we have a lot of personality conflicts and clash. I'm sure all you church-going folks, that never happens. You don't know what I'm talking about, but it is a function here in Connecticut, or within the labor movement. But we've been trying to break out of that because our motto is stronger together, and too often we felt stronger alone is how we acted. And so we've made a concerted effort to reach out to a number of groups, and Reverend Pawelek's been very instrumental in that.
Uh-oh, brother Rick, something done happened there.
Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear
All
me?
right, he's back. All right.
Yeah, my son was calling me to probably nag me about something. Anyways, so we've been working in this organization that we've been with a number of different organizations called Recovery for All. And what that basically is highlighting the needs of our community, of Black and brown and white low-wage workers, and the services they provide, and the hardships they face, and the need for those things in the richest state, in the richest country in the world. And all too often we've been told, geez, yeah, you make a good case, but we don't have quite enough money to pay for all those things. We have a lot of money for other things, but we don't have enough money to pay for those that have the least. So we've been working in coalition for the last year or so to try to change that dynamic here in Connecticut, and to make us a little bit more equal, a little less winner take all for some, and everybody else devil takes the hindmost, I guess is the other end of that statement, right? And and the last year has been really difficult, but also eye-opening for a lot of people on the degree of inequality. I mean, I just want to make one last point. We represent a number of people that work in nursing homes, the predominantly people of color, mostly women, and we've had over 20 deaths from our members that work in nursing homes from COVID, and because they didn't have the proper protection, they didn't have the proper equipment, they were considered essential and heroes, but forced to wear trash bags and treated as disposable instead of having gowns to protect themselves. So, this plague has revealed a lot to those that didn't want to see it in the past. And so we're working to change some of that here in Connecticut. I've talked too much, so I'll stop now.
All right, thank you, Brother Rick. Let's bring in our brother from Bridgeport, Connecticut, for real Los Angeles. I know that, but you know, he's hung out in Bridgeport long enough, you know, that there are people
Listen,
claim him as a Connecticut uh, son as well.
I have lived in Bridgeport longer than I've lived anywhere in my life. So yes, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, but I've lived here 27 years. Good evening, everybody. Namaste. Um, I am glad to be here. I think right now in this moment, what I'm up to is being father, who's being a chauffeur to his son, um, which is, and he's going to be out in a few minutes, and I'll continue. He knows, and I think on some level that is sort of the analogy. I'm like many of the residents, the parishioners I serve at Mount Airy Baptist in Bridgeport, community people that I see, talking with different people. They are simply trying to do their best to raise their families, to stay healthy, to care for their mental self, even in the midst of the injustices that you speak about. So like many of you, some of those people are in our faith community, and where there was an opportunity in moments in the past struggles to physically be with each other, to hug each other, to do all that stuff. That kind of act can not only be an act of resistance, but it can also be risky. And so a part of what we've been doing, in addition to the public stuff of Connect Congregations Organized for New Connecticut, doing testimony around clean slate, which is expungement for those who've served their time, data collection around disparities in our in the state, and some of the other social service issues around being a place for vaccinations and testing. What I think I continue to see the need for on a broader level, and I think this is it's this duality of we got to fight the fight, but we also got to take care of each other, because just before coming on and throughout the day, my dear sister Pam spoke about not wanting to engage. Not that you are afraid or anything, but you know the collateral damage that it does to the mind, the body, and the spirit. Both what's happening here locally, what's happening in the state, and then what's happening around the country. And so just trying to stay connected to other brothers and sisters is the challenge. Those that are on the front lines, as well as those who are less known, but nonetheless in the struggle and resisting locally. So, I mean, that's a general piece, but it's a, as you said, Pam, when I first was able to get on, it is a holy work. And seeing it as holy, that if as we make it through this, how do we care for each other? In the I guess the spirit of Ruby Sales, not self-care, but community care in the midst of these fights that we're in. So that's a good start off, I think.
Yes.
Thank you, brother. Well, I want to piggyback on that, and let's go down this road a little bit, because that's the core piece of why Moral Monday, CT, and of course, I would be remiss if I don't say we've been joined by labor. So SEIU 1199, 32 BJ. I love saying that. I just it brings me much joy. 32 BJ. So I just have to rep right there. But ULA and Black and Brown United, Hamden Action now, and our partners there. But in particular, so that's kind of our crew, and there's so many others. I'm gonna get in trouble because I started calling names, but I have to call these two names because they joined us and have been working as hard as we have to put these events together. I must give a grand shout out to Chris Dussault and Jackie Allen Dussault, and the Hartford Catholic Worker, whoop, whoop, and as well as Joanne Sheehan and the team and all the folk with the Voluntown Peace Trust. We've joined together in this week across the state in this Holy Week of Action. So you'll see Reverend Bennett, you will see Reverend Pawelek, you will see Brother Rick, you will see several of us all week long as we survey. I'll say it that way. As we survey the issues and the struggles that are present in our walk today. I'm mindful of the fact. I just saw one of the comments. Thank you, Tony, for that. That at the end of this, we're talking about people. Let me just say that right there and drop that. I'm gonna drop that and pause. We say Selah, right, or Selah, right? We're gonna pause for a moment and think on it for a few minutes. That at the end of this, the work that we are representing, that we are struggling to get done, has people at the end of it. I am mindful that it is my faithful response that if I can't do nothing else, I got to see people for who they are and right where they are. It is not enough to and let me be clear. It's not enough to see them. Once I see, I got to do something. All right. So I love the story of the Good Samaritan because it wasn't, it wasn't that the priest or the Levi moved across the way. They saw and they kept going. But it was the Samaritan actually who stopped and then put something on it. So it is our responsibility as faithful folk. And I think that's at the center of our work, is to put something on it. Dr. Bennett?
Yeah. Let me just share before he comes in. I'll still be on. But I think you used the Samaritan, which is a powerful piece I saw in the chat about social justice, deals with people, politics deal with systems. Well, the intersectionality says both are important. And yet the Samaritan not only attended to the brother, but he also was going to try to do something. I want to say he tried to fix the Jericho road so it would be safe for people to travel back and forth. And I think a part of the trap we can get in is make that choice of one or the other. If I'm going to see you, I got to see your multiple dimensions. We're fighting for these folk because these folk are us and they are human beings that have complexity and multiple dimensions to their lives. And so I think a part of that attending to the brother that fell in the trap of the thieves is what we have to do alongside taking care of the Jericho road. And I think that's what you all have been doing, what we've been trying to do. And I think what makes, again, it holy is to honor both. Because that's what Jesus did.
Yes. And thank you for that, because actually that is exactly the reason why I stepped further into politics, because, I recognize that the people in politics, the politicians, I was identifying with the systems, and so were they. And people were not being considered, even though everything that they were doing as people within a system impacted the lives of so many people. People would get caught up in the power of it, so much ego attached to it. And it was very problematic for me. It still is problematic for me. But that is then where the interruption comes. The interruption has to happen. It has to happen within the systems who are run by people who then affect even more people. We have to interrupt that thought that they're separate, that they're not connected, and that it is not a holy work. And so it was a challenge for me because of the spirit of it, because of the vibration of it, was something that was pretty ugly and something that I just would rather not. But to rather not is not to use who I am and who God has created me to be to affect change. And so that is why, again, I say I have challenged myself in that way, because, this is a precarious time. It's a curious time that we're living in. And all kinds of things are happening before us that we never saw before and never thought we would see. And if we don't take this time, let me just say this, it's an opportunity. This time that we have now is an opportunity to reevaluate ourselves and reevaluate the commitment that we have to lives and to ourselves, I mean, to community and to God. And I just say, we have been made uncomfortable. Why not go with it?
Right. Dr. Bennett used that idea and suggested that we have a responsibility to the road. With the Good Samaritan story, for me, it's all about it's one. Yes, we got to attend to the person that's been injured, and do. I like him in particular because he just did drop him off and say, take care of him for the night. Because we like to do that. We write that check, but that y'all know that $10 ain't gonna last with 15 minutes. Y'all know that. Yeah, that ain't enough for gas. You can't go to McDonald's no more and get no meal for $10. I wish I had a witness right there. You can't go there to do that. But I love what happened with the Samaritan say, here's some money on it, right? But then if that get used up, you know me. So when you come back, when I come back, I'll deal with it. When I come back, I'll settle up with you. I think it's our responsibility as well to deal with that road, Jericho Road, and Pamela and I have had the honor to be on that Jericho Road, right? And there is a literal road that goes from Jerusalem down to Jericho. Jericho is right on the right at the Dead Sea. Right, it's a city right at the Dead Sea, and if you've ever been there, you know that Jerusalem is up on a hill. So that road going down is something. It's something other, and there is something that must be said about our attention to the roads, to the road, to the work. There was a reason why he got. I almost said in my language, he got jacked on that Jericho Road. There's something going on. And I'm not going to necessarily say that I'm not going to cast them in a certain kind of way, because we can talk really bad about what happens on the road and the people who are doing business on the road, right? Sometimes, well, I'm going to just say in my neighborhood, I know when it's time for me to go home, right? That the business on the street at some hours ain't my business. Y'all, some of y'all agree with me. Some of y'all know what I'm saying. Some of y'all can do that. But I tell young people all the time that I have to deal with. About 1 o'clock in the morning, ain't too much good going on at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning, right? There's only a certain kind of element that's out at that time doing what they do at 1 and 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. Because if it was really that cool, you'd have done it at 1 and 2 o'clock p.m. instead of a.m. But nevertheless, I'm gonna keep it moving like that. That we moralize a bit about what happens and why those folk are doing whatever they're doing on that road. What I want to do is, and this is again me, I believe people, for example, people who are hustling, if they had a job that gave them a living wage, they might not hustle as much. I'm just saying. And so why don't we talk about living wage? Why don't we start to work there? Brother Joshua, you want to get in there?
Yeah, well, we should talk about a living wage because far too many workers in the state of Connecticut are not making a living wage. And it's ridiculous to me how many people who I don't know but live in the vicinity of our congregation in Manchester, how many people found me after the pandemic lockdown last March, April, May, and said, "Hey, Pastor, I heard you might be able to help. I lost my job. I got no food, and I got kids." And or some version of that. And I know you, John and Pamela, you heard that story too. and people were devastated. And the normal, the regular agencies that are helping people with hunger, they're overwhelmed, and some of them are still overwhelmed, even today. And so it's just clear that there's a profound problem, and it has to do with income inequality. And so you're talking about hustling, and I'm just mindful of the hustle that keeps happening, that keeps sending more wealth to the already wealthy people. That's the real hustle. And I'm watching television the other night, and this commercial comes on, and it's a insurance industry commercial, and they're making all these scary promises about the public option. The public option would open the state employees' health care plan to small businesses, small nonprofits, and individuals. And the value of that is that pool of people is so large that it could actually start driving costs down. But right now, I know small business owners that are paying 30% of the money that they make in a year to cover healthcare for 3 or 4 staff. 30%. And our church, we pay healthcare for 3 staff and 1 family member, and we do the numbers every year, and we pay over $50,000. And what we can purchase from the insurance industry is horrible. It's crap, and it's embarrassing. And the insurance industry, the insurance companies in Connecticut, partly because nobody was going to the hospital when they didn't need to during the pandemic, they have made so much money this year that it's obscene, and yet they don't want to change the system. That to me is a hustle, and we got a governor who is supporting them and not wanting to change the system. That's the hustle. That's the hustle.
And maybe more year, they said in 2020 than ever.
Yeah.
Since
possibly in the history of insurance.
Yes. Right. Including the time of enslavement, which is what it all came about in the first place. Yeah.
Brother Rick, you want to get in? This sounds up your alley a bit.
Yeah. This is kind of in my wheelhouse. I mean, it's important to remember why insurance companies started here in Hartford, why we had so many insurance companies. It's because there were so many people that had earned so much money in trade, whether it was through whaling or slave trading or importing sugarcane and rum in this little tiny state, that they had this excess capital. And then they decided that they were going to start using that excess capital to guarantee or to assess risk for all those ships that were going out back and forth between Africa and the United States, or Africa or the United States and Europe, that they were able to gamble on how many ships would come in, and that they would figure out a way to make money on that casino. And that's what it is. If you ask insurance companies, their business model is to collect checks, right? It's not to insure lives, it's to collect checks coming in. And, and God bless them, everybody's got to eat. Everybody should have a good living. And Josh was talking about our governor, who I know him. I've known him for a long time. I've worked with him on a number of campaigns, and I find him to be a decent person, but he's a person that lives in a very different world than the one I do, or the one that you do, or the one that the members of your congregations live in. I mean, I suppose if my grandfather was rich enough to build a library and give it to Harvard, that I would have a very different perspective on life, much as Governor Lamont's grandfather was able to do and provide for him. If I owned a hedge fund like Governor Lamont's wife does, and managed a hedge fund of billions of dollars, I would have a very different perspective of life than I do as well. We have, and just to the point of healthcare insurance, right? And we have members that make $14, $15 an hour, and had to fight to make $14 or $15 an hour. But if they want to purchase healthcare, it's going to cost them for a family $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, and that is to get any kind of halfway decent coverage. The coverage that Josh was talking about is probably a high deductible plan, and it's just there. It's just there in case you have major health problems, and they probably capitate the amount of money that they can spend on it. But you have to pay a lot of money out of pocket before you get $1 in coverage. So there's so many inequities in our country, right? You know, I'd be remiss not to say today's the first day of a trial out in Minnesota, right? You know, where we're hoping that there'll be justice served there as well. But we should, and we're going to hope for the best on that. And we hope that things are changing here in Connecticut and in Minnesota and throughout the country, and bringing more justice, because I think that's what our fight is all about. I think you mentioned Dr. King, his famous line about the arc of the arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice, right? And I think that we have to continue to bend that arc towards a more perfect union, the one that we ascribe to, that we learned about in our history books, but pretty much ignored ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Rick. That quote is ascribed to Dr. King, but that was actually my Unitarian Universalist friends they'll jam me up if I don't rap right. That statement actually comes from Theodore Parker, that Dr. King then restated. And the more arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. So my UU cred is still intact. Okay, I just want y'all to know, it's still intact.
And then we have a Ferguson freedom fighter who took it to another level and said it bends towards justice because we bend it.
We make it bend. That's right. We bend it.
We make it do what it do.
Right. That's right. So it is
our contribution.
That's right. It is so very important that's why we're doing what we're doing this entire week. Can I in our remaining time, let's talk a little bit about what the week holds for us. All right. On tomorrow night, we're going to be back here at 7:00. Same back channel, same back station. All right. You can tell I was a product of the 60s, and I'm watching me some Batman. Ooh-wee. Okay, I got off track. I'm back. We're calling tomorrow Interfaith Tuesday, and so we will have some of our friends from the Jewish community, from the Muslim community, and from Christian communities largely, who will join us in conversation. They're going to talk about what justice means in their faith work and in their faith frame. All right. On Wednesday, we're gonna do just a couple of outdoor events. All right, socially distanced, mask on and up. Thank you very much. No chin strapping going on around here. All right. Wednesday we'll have, but none of that. But none of that. We're gonna put mask and socially distance. We want to be responsible during this pandemic moment. But we're gonna ask you to meet us at the Department of Labor, one of their buildings in Wethersfield, right on the cusp of Hartford. I think it's Holly Place. We'll post all of these addresses in the spot at 4:00. And we're going to be joined by Labor and some of our other partners and friends. And we're going to talk about our connection and really faith folk talking about the connection that they have to Labor and Labor talking about its connecting to justice and some of the issues that are really driving us to be vocal and active during this political season, in particular here in Connecticut. We've got to get some things done, folks. We really must do it. And it's embarrassing and it's a doggone shame. I'm going to just say some of this stuff is a doggone shame that we can't get some of the things. Anyway, we'll talk more about that on Wednesday, 4:00. meet us at the Department of Labor right on Jordan Lane, right at Hartford and in Wethersfield on Thursday. Black women, Connecticut Black women, CT Black women Thursday. And so at 7 o'clock, we'll be back here and we're going to join Pamela and some of her colleagues and some of our colleagues and friends in a conversation led by and and rep by Black women. And they're leading the movement, by the way. Can I just say that right there? Black women have led the movement, and don't get it twisted. We wouldn't know half the stuff we know about Martin King if it wasn't for Coretta Scott King.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't know a lot of stuff about Malcolm if it wasn't for Betty Shabazz. So let's just be clear. We repping Black women will be talking and leading the conversation on Thursday. And then on Friday, we will do a Station of the Cross at 11 a.m. We would be on these same channels. We'll message out where you can meet us and share in that very sacred moment on Friday. Friday evening, what time, Reverend Josh, what time are we going to gather?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock in Manchester at the Spot. Those of you who've been doing the work, right? Manchester has the Spot, right? We're going to meet at the Spot in Manchester. It will mark on April the 2nd, right? April the 2nd is the anniversary of the shooting of Jose Soto. All right. So Good Friday for us here in Connecticut has a very particular way it looks. It looks brown, right? And so we will be with Brother Soto's family, also joined by Power Up Connecticut and Sister Corinne Prescott.
And her outstanding work.
That's right.
Throughout the state.
That's right.
But I think she was probably the creator of The Spot.
The Spot. and our friends and our family over at Unitarian Universalist Society East. We'll be joining there at 7 o'clock at the Spot. And we'll be talking about it. We'll be observing that moment, a very sacred moment for us, as we acknowledge again that police violence is not state-sanctioned violence. Let's really be clear. Mm-hmm. State-sanctioned violence ain't happening just far off. Right. It's not just in Minnesota, or it's not just in St. Louis. It's not just in Cleveland or Baltimore or Baton Rouge. It's right here in Connecticut. And then on Saturday, we're going to partner with some of our friends from across the country. We're going to have a Black Lives Matter moment. Black Lives Matter. We're going to talk about the movement. We're going to hear from national friends, and then we're going to talk very locally as well about what's going on, what's going down. And then on Sunday, Easter Sunday, next Sunday, we will join again. We will gather again and be in conversation about what it all means. And we'll try to do some wrapping and some culminating. And if you will, if we can, we might do a little preaching. It's Easter Sunday, so preachers might preach on Easter Sunday. Can I get one witness? One witness.
One witness. You got a witness there. Got to say something. Got to get him up there.
Yeah, that's our week. So we're encouraging you all to join us to be a part of as many of these events as you possibly can. The Spot for us will be on social media, Facebook and YouTube. So if you go to More Money CT's Facebook or More Money CT's YouTube channel, you'll see these broadcasts live. They're also being broadcast on CT Black Women, on our what else? On my social media page. So you're seeing me. Some of you all are seeing us on several of our social media pages as well, and on our YouTube channel. And if you perchance you be on your venue, your spot is Twitter. Where Twitter partnered with Periscope. So we are live on Periscope right now. Check that out. And can I just say, we're going to got to take a little bit more credit. When Periscope introduced Periscope and they introduced the partnership with Periscope and Twitter, they saw what we were doing and contacted us and said, can we use a 12-second clip of your actions, because you are using this platform in the way we think it ought to be used. Shout out, can I get one more? I need just one more witness. That More Money CT on the cutting edge. I don't know how that happened, but we're on the cutting edge. We're on the cutting edge of how you do this stuff we're talking about, using social media as a way, as a platform to message out in ways that we hope that are helpful. We hope to strengthen your faith. We hope to call you to a more faithful witness and walk, and quite frankly, remind you that the work still is to be done. It's still to be done.
And what I would like to just add is, it's all about the comfort thing. So if you are comfortable, you're not doing it right. If you feel comfortable, check again. You're not doing it right. This is not the time to be sitting pretty and feeling fabulous and comfortable.
Fabulous.
Nothing wrong with feeling fabulous to say. But, again, the challenge now is to push yourself in ways that you haven't pushed yourself before, because that's what we need. That's who we need to show up now. We don't need, whoever you were yesterday in 2019. 2019 is gone. 2020 came, and now we're in 2021. And if you feel good about everything and comfortable, then no, you're not doing it right. Just to say.
Pamela said you ain't doing it right.
No.
If you're comfortable, you ain't doing it right. I heard it. Did y'all hear that? I heard it very clearly. Dr. Benny, any last word, any closing word you got for us?
Man, y'all can see I'm back. I didn't finish my chauffeur duty. And so, as you say, comfort, what it is, you got to give until it hurts. That's what we say. So it ain't comfortable. So this is a week, not of polish, but a protest, and we gonna do what we do, and we gonna be with you all.
All right, thank you, Brother Rick. Any final remarks from you?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. The work you do is so important in our communities, and I'm so glad that we're able to work together. Whenever you're dealing with other folks, there's always some tensions and some frictions, because that's just the way people are. I always say organizations are great. The only problem with them is that they got people in them. If it wasn't for the people, but I really appreciate all the work that your organizations, that Connect's doing, that G is doing, that Moral Monday's doing, that the Universalist Church, Unitarian churches are doing here in Connecticut, because there's a lot of work to be done. So let's get to it.
Thank you, Brother Rick. Appreciate it. And we there with labor as well. Reverend Josh?
So one of the things I know now about living through a pandemic is that people get tired of doing what you got to do to not only keep yourself safe, but to keep the community safe, to keep the people around you safe, to keep the people who you may come into contact with safe. And so there was, back in April, May last year, there was this desire to return to normal. And now that desire to return to normal is hyper, right? It's through the roof. And the message that I preach to my congregation, I've said this many, many times, is when you feel that desire, that impulse, that need to get back to normal, or when you hear other people say it, interrogate it. Don't let it stand, because normal was not working. It was not working for a lot of people. It was harmful. It was crushing. And if we go back to normal, we're just asking for more of that. And, all these people put Black Lives Matter signs on their lawns in the suburbs. And that wasn't normal, but we know that we need more than the signs, right? And I wish I could say to every single person who put that sign on their lawn, let's not go back to normal. Let's ask ourselves, how do we transform this state and our communities so that it works for more people, so that the wealth that is generated does not just flow to the already wealthy, but actually is available so that more people have opportunities. We can't go back to the old normal. It wasn't working. So that's my message. That's one of my messages for this week is let's interrogate that impulse to go back to that old normal, because we can't. We simply can't. Too many lives are at stake.
That's so good. That's so good. Amen. This is the time. If there ever has been a time for those of us who are of faith, those of us who are of conscience, those of us who care at all. I mean, you care. I mean, and no judgment about what kind of care you care. But I think if you care at all, this is the opportunity now. If there ever was a time to get involved, find the thing that you can contribute to. Yes, we need your money. Let me just say right here, we need your money to be involved in this. We need your witness, whatever that witness looks like. For some of us, we're able to take the kinds of witnesses, the kinds of stands, like getting arrested or doing public actions. For some folk, that's not what you can do, but you can do something. And I love what Reverend Pawelek just said. Interrogate the thought that says, let's just go back to normal. Let's just go back to the way it used to be. Interrogate that thing. Ask a question on it, because that's the wrong thought. Think again. In fact, one of my friends said that's what repentance actually means. It means to think and then think again. Right? So it's a time right now. And if you let me, I'm a preacher. So if I'm going to use faith language if you don't shout me down too much. That it's maybe time to repent. To turn around, metanoia, to turn around, think and think again. And I believe, quite frankly, here's where I draw a kind of proverbial line in the sand. I think we can do better. I believe we can do better. I believe we can actually get to a place where everybody that's hungry won't be hungry anymore. That everybody that needs somewhere to live and wants to live somewhere can go there and live. I believe we can get to 100% employment. So that employment rate, we're judged by how high the employment rate, 10, 11, 12% during this pandemic has been. I want it to be at zero. That everybody that wants a job ought to be able to have a job. I think that it is, if you want some health care, it shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg and then some in order to get it. That you should be able to go down there and get it. And here, the challenge we have here in Connecticut with all the wealth that we got, we can do some more sharing. We can do some more. We can lessen the gap, the income inequality gap. We can lessen the gap that exists because of your zip code. We know what kind of education you get. We can lessen that gap around your health care. We can lessen that gap if we give effort to it. And that's what we're here to advocate for. That's what we're here to talk about. Y'all done got me on my soapbox. I think I might preach before we leave here tonight. Dr. Bennett, last word.
No, Doc, you didn't preach it. I said, where's the offering plate? We got to do it virtually now. Preach, man. That is true. Stretch us beyond our own limits. Stretch us beyond our own limits. That's where we are. Yeah.
Well, what we are asking you all to do is to get involved and do that in the best in your best way, in the way that you feel comfortable with, in the way not comfortable. Excuse me, Pamela already preached that, and I'm trying to not comfortable. We want you to do what's right.
We want you to be uncomfortable.
We want you to be uncomfortable.
So if you are a person who gives money, because that's what you normally do, that's your normalcy, then interrogate that and then give until it's uncomfortable. Woo. Do that.
How about that?
Let that be your challenge.
How about that?
If you got the money, let's do it that way.
Show up with the money.
Yes.
So we can get the work done. We gotta go. We promise you we would hold these times just for an hour or so. And so again, thank you, Brother Rick, Dr. Bennett, our brother. Thank you, bro. Our other brother, Brother Josh. Thank you, Pamela.
Yep.
The introduction is done.
We're excited about this, and let's do it.
All right. Peace in the Middle East. We'll see y'all tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock.
Stay
7
safe,
o'clock.
everyone.
All righty. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace.